And speaking of that, Mr. Calhoun, if you will recall, we had Mr. Calhoun had really approached us about wanting to do the potential of making some changes about rebranding Lexington Middle School. And everybody nodded and gave me the thumbs up when we were talking about that night. And I believe Mr. Calhoun tonight is going to come to us and give us an update on some stakeholder feedback that he's been receiving. So, Mr. Calhoun.
Thank you, Dr. Little, and thank you, everybody, for hanging in there. I'll try to make this as short and sweet here as we go. But so when I talk about rebranding of Lexington Middle School, I want to give you, to start with, Dr. Little gave you a little bit there, but I'm going to give you a little bit of the process and why are we even having this discussion whatsoever and how it kind of came about, because I think that's important in the story here. Last spring, I had just kind of taken over as principal and at Lexington Middle, and we were going through this rezoning process. Beechwood Middle is opening, and through that, we identified, Beechwood and Pleasant Hill are all a feeder to Lexington High School, and then for the first time, Lexington Middle School and Meadow Glen were a true feeder to River Bluff High School. And so once that happened, the conversation that started to begin to come to me as the principal, was from the community and my parents, was, what is this going to look like in the future? I mean, my kids are Gator. My older kid's a junior playing softball, and my kid's a Wildcat and they're blue. And so there was just some conversation that started at that point. So then in last November, land was purchased for the new for the new school, and really a lot of excitement there. Quickly, Dr. Little came to and Jeff came to the staff and shared that, which was really cool and exciting. But then really quickly after, Dr. Little had asked me to establish kind of our stakeholders, some key people just to drum up some excitement, and that included some PTO members, some SIC members, some kind of athletic boosters, just some people that across the board. And I think there were like 14 families there. And Dr. Little and Jeff probably remember this. It was pretty quick after the thing. Well, so they gave the presentation, and it's like, yeah, it's all exciting. And then, within 2 seconds, there's like 3 hands of the parents. It's like, so Dr. Little, what's the new name of the school going to be? What's the colors? What's the mascot? And I mean, Dr. Little was handled it fine. But it was like, oh, well, there's a little bit of, you're giving you this, but we don't know. So we handled it. But so it kind of led us to have some conversation, and then for me to go back to my school and eventually come back to Dr. Little and say, Dr. Little, like, I believe we at least need to look at this opportunity. I mean, there's going to be a new building. We're going to move. There's this piece. I want to try to do this. Let's see what it looks like. And so then he kind of charged me this spring to kind of gather feedback from our stakeholders, which I'm going to share tonight. And then hopefully fall, we continue to look at, name, colors, mascot, and instructional programs for what a new vision of this new Lexington Middle School can be. It excites me, and I've got a lot of passion about this. I'm excited about this. So here's the way we did that quickly. Before COVID-19, I got to share with the rising sixth grade, which are current 5th grade parents, that course registration night that was at our building. I got to give kind of Jeff's presentation and survey those parents, kind of give them the concept of that. Obviously, I involved our school improvement council and had a deeper discussion of what this would mean for them, because they're very important key in there. Led our faculty meeting on a regular Monday afternoon, support staff to admin, all the way, and everybody in between around getting there. I wanted every voice to be heard on my staff. And we protocoled that out to make sure every voice could be heard there. And then finally, COVID played a little bit of a role into our plan here. But Dr. Little and I had some discussion early May and just said, let's go ahead. I drafted a letter to my 6th grade parents. And those 2 parent pieces were important because they are parents that we believe will be in the new middle school. Those are parents of students who will be a part of the new site And so I really wanted to get their feedback. So, and was able to get a decent number of the sixth grade parents just by sending that to them and asking their feedback. Staff discussion, I just put a couple pictures because it was a much deeper, our staff very much supports going through a rebranding process. But I tried to lift everybody's voice and give these things. And one of the things that our staff really honed in on is we would love for this to happen, but how are we going to honor the history and tradition of of LMS and / the building that was once LHS, LMS, the central services at one point? I mean, there was so all the pieces. Can we honor that as we go forward? So that was my parent. So here's some. I want to give you some parent results there. I probably, of the people I was able to, I probably got a third or so total of a parent, 5th and 6th grade parents, which when I don't have access to the 5th graders necessarily yet, and the 6th grade, so I'm pretty happy about that. And across the board, it was pretty much 80% of our people want to kind of go through a name change. I pulled this simply from a Google survey, which I asked ours, would you support a name change? And if so, you have suggestions. I got plenty of suggestions. They gave me, sometimes always the best kind is you drum up from there. And then if not, is there a reason why? And so got some good information there too. So, but really there was a strong, I thought, well, maybe one group will be different. One, maybe they don't, but across the board, it was about 80-20 that they support us going through with really a complete kind of rebrand. I kind of took the takeaways here of this. Our faculty and staff, we got a couple legacy people on board. I'm not going to say that they weren't like, Casey, I'm just going to, I'm going to miss some of this. And one of the cons that they all put was, man, I got a lot of L stuff, a lot of t-shirts. What am I going to do with that? I'm like, well, we can make that work. But overall, the staff is really, thinks it will be in the best interest for us to do that. That was their feedback. My SIC absolutely supports a fresh vision, which is something we hope to begin in the fall of revisioning who we are. And then, that important piece of our parents. And, I saw a support for a new name, vision, and kind of brand for the school. The piece that I maybe didn't put up here that, because you kind of need data when you're getting this feedback, but is the many parents, the many guys stopping me at a basketball game, at the play. I got 2 guys got me at the play this year in December. It's like, hey man, where are we at in this process? Like we fully support this. And so those pieces, those conversations that were all about us rebranding, really haven't had any of them that said, just not so sure. So anyway, I was out there with Jeff, took me out there the other day, kind of panoramic. It's such a cool site. I'm so excited for the future. And so I just very much thank you guys for your support. Questions? I can take
questions or comments, board? I was just I want to mention, as we start transitioning from the old site to the new site, you probably should keep in mind, when I was in 7th grade in 1980, the Eagles class, we did an archaeological unit. And so somewhere way in the back of the current campus, you're going to find a lot of ancient artifacts. A bunch of 12-year-olds made those. There was like 4 classes that buried things for somebody in the future to find. So they're there waiting for you.
Absolutely. We've got some staff members who have been there since then, and I have actually gotten some, we've collected, hey, is there things that we need to identify to take with us or, make special, that kind of thing. So I appreciate that.
And Casey, I just want to say thank you in advance. Opening a new school separate from the name and the branding and the mascot is a huge uplift. And we're excited about your leadership and, again, the culture that you're going to set at that new site. So thank you.
And I want to share, I've been walking through my neighborhood a lot during the quarantine, and I got stopped for an hour the other night, and they very clearly told me that they thought Lexington Middle School should have everything new. And they also proceeded to give me lots of ideas. So if you need more ideas, they were all good, but it was just interesting. It's really weighing on the minds of these middle school parents. So
That's right.
thank y'all for all you're doing.
Thank you.
Mr. Calhoun, as an alumnus of Lexington Middle, certainly it holds a special place in my heart. But I think it is a good reflection of how dynamic we are as a community, and so I think it's a great idea when you look at a rebrand like this, because middle school is such a crucial time. Having 2 middle schoolers right now, I can tell you, it's very crucial, and so certainly appreciate your leadership there.
So, board, Mr. Salters, you want to talk about our next steps? Well, I can talk about our next steps. I guess I'm sitting here. Our next steps then is we will then come back to the board with some suggestions, as we normally do, and then the board will be able to take a vote on those issues. School colors will really be more of a school-based decision, which is what we normally do, and mascot typically lands on the school, but the school name. So we'd like to bring forth you some names when we go through our research. I'm sure we'll get Mr. Warren and Mr. Calhoun and others deeply involved, and begin to have some conversations about what that looks like, and have you some suggestions to look at. Do we do 2 readings of that or 3 readings? We do 2 readings, and so we'll do 2 readings of that and let the community respond to it and see what happens.
And Dr. Little, is there a possibility that if we do change the name of Lexington Middle School, that doesn't mean that name is gone forever, that we could potentially— Correct. Because yes, I foresee in our future that we will build some more middle schools that possibly we could take it out of the vault.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely, that is remains a possibility. In this whole process, I really talked to Mr. Calhoun. I said, you really need to give me a compelling argument as to why we would do this. And he proceeded to give me a really compelling argument as to why we should do this. And it is about that L is representative of Lexington High School, and it really is across the state. That brand, that L brand is very important. And so just like when you see the G, with the tomahawk in it, you know what you're talking about. And so that's a really big brand for Lexington High School, and I do think it makes a lot of sense to move forward. But it's also a recognition that Lexington Middle School is not gone forever. I'm sure that name will get reused, and we will christen another school that in the future, and we also plan on hopefully doing some special things with the Lexington Middle School campus, as well as Pillion and Gilbert, as we move out of those campuses as well, that honors the educational delivery models through the years, so to speak, in those areas.